You must have studied history in your school. Some of you might have studied it in your. In prelims, you will find on an average at least 15 to 16 questions are going to be there in your. Now, in this session, this is not our purpose to go into the nitty-gritties of each and every. This is a very complex question which we will understand in a very simplistic way. If you are reading a 500 or 600 pages book and you are finding only one question in your exam, is it relevant? How would you know where your knowledge is lacking? Whether your knowledge is lacking or you got very scared while sitting in the
UPSC preparation begins with one practical question. How do you turn a vast syllabus into a clear, workable study process? That clarity does not come from adding more material. It comes from a structure that decides sequence, priority and review. The Delhi GS Foundation course at Vision IAS is built around that structure. Core subjects are taught in a planned flow, so concepts build instead of overlapping. Current affairs are integrated with static topics, so relevance is clear from the start. Tests are used to check understanding at the right stage, not just to measure scores. Mentorship focuses on keeping preparation aligned as the syllabus progresses. The result is a preparation process that stays steady and predictable, even as the syllabus expands. If you are looking for a structured approach to general studies, covering both prelims and mains with regular guidance and review, this course provides that framework. Vision IAS Delhi GS Foundation course starting from 6th January at 11 am, 16th January at 8 am and 23rd January at 5 pm at Karol Bagh and 7th January at 6 pm for English and 12th January at 11 am for Hindi at GTB Nagar. For more information, visit our website or call us on the given numbers.
So, hello everyone. I am Radha Gupta and I'll be taking this session regarding history subject. So, when we talk about history as a subject and its importance in UPSC examination, there are a few things that you should be clear about, and we'll be starting with that only. Now, see, when it comes to this subject, it's a very popular subject in general. You must have studied history in your school. Some of you might have studied it in your college also. There are a lot of examinations where history is a very prominent part of the syllabus. Now, when it comes to UPSC examination, first of all, we should be clear about this idea, what portions from history are being asked in the examination and how you should approach this particular subject. I'll give you a very simple example. If you have been a student of history in college, at least this is something that used to happen to me a lot when I was in college. Whenever I used to travel back home and somebody used to ask me which subject are you studying, so I used to tell them that I am doing history honors, and the question that they used to pose, पानीपत की लड़ाई कब हुई थी? Now, UPSC is not interested in that, and many of us grow up with this idea that history is only about dates. It's not only about dates, especially if you look at UPSC syllabus. This is one myth that needs to be broken. Of course, we should have a basic idea about chronology, but you don't need to mug up a lot of things here. You should have the conceptual clarity. This is one thing that you should have in mind before starting your preparation. Now let us understand what do we need to study here when we are studying history. This is your syllabus for prelims. Now it's written here, History of India and Indian National Movement. If you look at the official document of UPSC, this is the syllabus that they have released. They have not given you a breakdown of different topics. So officially we have this line, History of India and Indian National Movement. This is for prelims. Now let us come to our mains syllabus. Again, this is the official syllabus that we are looking at. Here, it's written Indian culture will cover the salient aspects of art forms, literature and architecture from ancient to modern times. If you look at the second line, modern Indian history from about the middle of the 18th century, that is 1750, until present. So significant events, personalities and issues. The other lines are also giving you a vague idea about the syllabus. The major question arises, what do we mean by that? Because if it's written History of India and Indian National Movement, it can also mean that you have to study the history of the dishes that we eat today, history of the clothes that we wear today. Everything can come under its ambit. So it's a very vague line that has been given in our syllabus. How to break it down, how to understand what we should be studying here, our guide, that is our PYQs. So when you have the line from the syllabus in front of you, how are you going to interpret it? By looking at previous year questions. So if you analyze the previous year questions, what do we get to know? In prelims, you will find on an average at least 15 to 16 questions are going to be there in your GS paper. So when we are talking about prelims, what is the weightage here? Around 15 to 16 questions. So it's a major chunk of your syllabus. When we come to mains, so in GS1, UPSC asks about history. So there are going to be 6 questions for sure. That has been the trend. If UPSC wants to increase the number, at times we also get 7 questions from history. Again, another major chunk when we are talking about mains. Apart from this, this particular paper also has a lot of relevance in other areas. For example, when you study polity, so you start from studying the constitution, or you study about various institutions. For example, you study about parliament, you study about judiciary, how these institutions are developing, the background you are going to get from history. In the same manner, when you study your economy, so you study about agriculture, major infrastructural problems, how to improve it, what is the work that is going to be done in that context. You will also get the background of your economy section in your history. So other parts that you have to study, there also history remains very relevant. Now when you are studying history, what you should be studying, let us come to that. So there are 6 sections that you need to study here. What are those 6 sections? So we have ancient, medieval, art and culture, then modern, world history, and post-independence India. So there are 6 segments that you need to study. Now these 2 segments are only asked in your mains examination. They are not relevant from prelims perspective. The other 4 are asked in your prelims examination. When it comes to mains, in mains UPSC asks art and culture from ancient to modern times. So there you don't need to go into the details of political or economic or social or religious history. What we should be doing? We should be studying art and culture from ancient to modern times. Then modern Indian history, world history, and post-independent India. So if you have this clarity in mind before starting your preparation, your journey will become much more easier. Now, when we are looking at these areas are going to have several topics within them. Now, in this session, this is not our purpose to go into the nitty-gritties of each and every topic. So we will not be doing that here. What we are going to do, we'll take certain examples and try to understand how to prepare history for your examination. So let us take the example from ancient India. When we are studying ancient India, we start our discussion from human evolution. How did we evolve into the people that we are today? What kind of culture developed and what were the reasons behind that? We start from that and gradually we start talking about agriculture, how we started growing crops, what kind of crops were we growing, how did we start settling down at a particular place, and then we eventually study the histories of the empire, how the whole political setup is coming into existence. So we study about all these things. Now let us take one example. So there is one topic in your syllabus, that is Mauryan Empire. I'll take this example and we'll try to understand how to study this any topic, for example in ancient India. Now when you are picking up any topic while studying your history, try to understand how do we know about Mauryan Empire. So your first question should be, how do historians get to know about this time period? What are the sources? Have people left some record, be it in terms of palaces or in terms of literature books that they were writing back then? That is something that you should keep in mind here. After that, you should know about the politics. So who are the rulers? Are they fighting any wars? If they are fighting any wars, those are some things that you should study to just get an idea about that time period. So if they are fighting any war, that is something that you should know here. If they are establishing a particular administrative setup, that you should know. So that is going to prepare your background of a particular time period. What is important? See, when you study these topics in your schools, you are taught this aspect only, political history. Mostly this is the area that is very much focused upon. If you look at UPSC question papers, they don't ask you about wars in history. So you need to know about wars just to get an idea, okay, this was the ruler, they were ruling, this was the particular area where they were ruling. Our questions start after this. What kind of economic life was there? So what we should be focusing upon is economy of that period. How people were living. Were they practicing agriculture? If they were practicing agriculture, what kind of crops were they growing? This is something that UPSC is interested in. I'll just give you a simple example. So in this year's question paper, UPSC asked which of these fruits were introduced in India by Portuguese, and they had given us 3 options. So they are more interested in knowing whether you understand the economic life of that period. Do you understand the cultural changes that are coming into existence? So you should focus a lot upon the economic development. So starting from agriculture to pastoralism, that means what was the relation of people with animals, which were the animals that these people were keeping with them, be it for their need of dietary purpose or for agricultural need or for milk. Any of the reasons can be there. After that, you should know what kind of crafts were being produced. Again, if you look at UPSC question papers, they are very much interested in knowing, do you know about the textile tradition, or do you know about a particular woodcraft tradition in our country or not? All these things have been part of our culture since ancient times, and now we have forgotten about all these things. So you should know about these things. Do you know about the trade relations or not? So this is the area that you need to study whenever you are reading your NCRTs. These are the things that you should focus upon. After this, you should study society of that time period. So while studying society, you should study about Varna system, caste system, because that has been part of Indian society for a very long period of time. You should study about women, what was the condition of women, how, what kind of rights did they have. If we are talking about a rich woman and a poor woman, a woman living in a village and in a city, is there a difference in their condition? What kind of institutions are they attending? These are the things that you should know about. So this is the basic thing that you are expected to know. So even if you don't remember the name of a particular ruler, that is fine, but if you don't understand the economic development or societal division, that will create a problem for you. So if you look at all these things, they are much more conceptual in nature, not very factual. I hope you are getting a gist of it. Now coming to religion. So in any time period, what is the religion that is being followed by people? If there are multiple religions, because India is a multi-religious and multicultural country. So what are the religions that were present? What is the philosophy that they are teaching? If people belonging to different religion are living at one place, are they fighting with each other, or they are interacting with each other? If they are interacting with each other, what kind of interaction is taking place? If you look at your questions, especially in your mains examination, they are very much centered around culture. So when we talk about culture, literature will be one part of it. You must be looking at a lot of buildings around you, multiple temples or mosques or stupas that have been created. So when we are talking about culture, and these are the things that students generally miss whenever they study history. Generally they read about the rulers, they read about time period, they read about wars, they generally don't read about literature. And this is the area that UPSC is very much interested in. What kind of buildings are being built in a particular time period? That is also one of UPSC's favorite areas. What kind of sculptures are these people making? What kind of paintings are there? What kind of dance, music, clothing pattern is coming into existence? So these are the things that you have to focus upon. I hope you got a gist of how to read any particular topic. Now, if you look at the questions, a lot of students, even after preparing, you are just about to start, but many students who prepare without guidance, they don't know what to focus upon. If we talk about ancient and medieval period, and if we look at the questions, you must have heard it from your seniors also, that art and culture portion is very tricky. It's very tough in UPSC exam, and no matter how much you read, you are going to miss many of the questions. It's a misconception. See, when you have studied properly and you have understood the pattern, you will be able to solve the questions even if you are not able to attempt all the questions. I am talking about prelims. Even if you are not able to attempt all the questions, you will be able to attempt at least a good number of questions to qualify if you have prepared properly. So I'll give you an example here. We have talked about the contours that one reads while preparing for UPSC examination in history. In prelims, UPSC asks you about these things from art and culture. Now think about it, even if you imagine yourself reading a chapter, most of the students will probably ignore these things while reading any chapter. 90% of the questions in your ancient, medieval, art and culture, they come from these four areas in your prelims examination. What kind of literature was being produced? What were the important centers of cultural development? What are some of the important terms that have been used? What is the philosophical tradition that was present during our ancient and medieval times? 90% of the questions you will find revolving around these themes in ancient medieval culture. So if you have this idea, now if you are sitting with your book, you will definitely look for literary pieces when you are reading about, let's say, Mauryan period, and you know that UPSC is interested in asking about literature, so you won't be missing that. You might miss detail of the war, but whenever literature is there, you will write about it. Whenever there is a particular philosophy, you will study that very carefully. This is where half the work is done, because in this examination, which is having such a vast syllabus, there are so many current affairs that you have to update yourself with. It's very important to know what you have to focus upon and what you should be leaving out. I hope it's clear to you. Now when it comes to mains examination, see, merely reading everything is not going to do the job. In this examination, it's very, very important that you are well versed with your writing skills. Now, if you have read everything, you also need to keep revising, because if you think realistically, it will take you at least 1 year to read the complete syllabus, and I am saying at least. It might take you more than that. So when you are talking about this particular examination, you need 1 year at least to complete the syllabus. Now think about it, if you started your preparation today, whatever you have read today, will you be able to remember it exactly after a year? It's very unlikely. We need to keep revising everything that we have read. That's why it's important to choose your books carefully. Even if you have read 3 books for ancient Indian history today, by the time you are going to sit in the examination, you probably won't remember any of the details that you are studying today. So read less, but read the relevant things and keep revising those relevant things properly. That is the key here. So whenever you are studying anything, you will have to make short notes of that, and you will have to revise it regularly. So when you are doing your revision, what becomes important there? Practice. whatever you have read. Let's say you have read a particular chapter on Mauryan Empire. What you should do after completing the chapter? You should go through the PYQs, previous year questions. What questions have been asked from that particular topic? Are you able to solve it? If you are able to solve it, well and good. If there are certain questions that you are not able to solve, you should try to mark it that what are the areas that are left in my preparation of Mauryan Empire. That will help you a lot. When it comes to mains examination, it is very important to develop your writing skill, because this is the stage which is going to decide at a large scale whether you will be qualifying the exam or not. Interview is also important, but major chunk of your marks are coming from mains. So even when you are qualifying, what is going to be your rank? It depends a lot upon your mains performance. So this is one stage which you need to take very, very seriously. And whenever we are trying to write answer in mains, it is not going to happen in one day that suddenly you are writing a very good answer. So if you look at your mains question, you have to write your answers in 150 and for some questions in 250 words. Now, the kind of question that UPSC asks, they are very conceptual. When you are sitting in the exam, on an average, you will get 7 to 8 minutes to write one answer. It's very pressurizing, sitting there, reading the questions, trying to understand what is the demand of the question, and also to produce your answer within 7 to 8 minutes, containing your word limit to 150 or 250, whatever has been given. So it's very important to keep practicing from the very start. A lot of students come and say at the end of the preparation that we don't know how to approach mains answers because they have not practiced it from the very start. So if you think that we will start practicing when we have completed the syllabus, when we have done the revision, the day is never going to come, because every day you will feel that something is left. I have forgotten that chapter. I have forgotten that part of the syllabus. Let me revise it first. So it's very important that you keep practicing, and the writing skill will take some time in developing. So that is another aspect that you should prepare. In classes, you are given with some prelims questions as well as mains questions so that you have practiced it throughout the year. You can also practice it from test series. So that is also one way of doing it. It also keeps you in check whether you are, whatever you are studying, whether you are able to remember it, whether you are able to answer questions or not. Is this much clear? Okay. So in mains, keep practicing, keep attempting the questions every day. Even if you write one answer every day, it might not be a very good answer, but when you will get it analyzed, be it from your teachers, be it from your peers, or be it on your own after a point of time, when you have understood how to analyze it, you will be able to look at your strengths and your weaknesses. It's very important to get an idea of what your strength is and what your weaknesses. There are some students who are able to convey what is the demand of the question in very beautiful way. Some students need some time and practice to develop that skill. So that is why it becomes very important to do the practice. I'll show you one question. Since you are only beginners, you have not studied anything yet, so I'll keep it very, very simple here. This is a very complex question which we will understand in a very simplistic way. So the question is asking, early Buddhist stupa art, while depicting folk motifs and narratives, successfully expounds Buddhist ideals, elucidate. So stupa, you must have heard of Buddhism. Buddhism has been a very prominent philosophy in India, and Buddha taught about non-violence, compassion, and he said people belonging to any of the identity can become part of Buddhism. So Buddhism is a religion which is talking about equality, which is talking about acceptance. This is the basic idea that you should have. Now let us read it. Early Buddhist stup art. So in Hinduism, the way there are temples, in Buddhism there are stupas. So the question is talking about stup art. So any kind of sculpture that is carved on stupa, that will be part of stupa art. What they are saying? While depicting folk motifs, so symbols that are present, it can be a flower, it can be an elephant, it can be a bird, anything can be here which is part of popular culture. So while depicting those symbols and narratives, that means a lot of stories that have been depicted in sculptural format. So it's saying while doing this, it is successfully expounding Buddhist ideals. What the question is asking you to do? The question is asking you to look at stup. Whatever stories are present there, are those stories telling us about Buddhist ideas? This is something that they are asking. So what are the Buddhist ideas? Non-violence, equality, compassion. Amongst many ideas, these are prominent ones. Now I have kept a picture here. If you look at this picture, this tree depicts Buddha. Here is a woman who is standing, and behind her there is a man. This man is having a parasol. That means this man is a king. The woman is praying even before the man. Think about it, in a patriarchal society, in a monarchical society where king is the most powerful personality, there is a woman who is praying Buddha even before the ruler. Does it not tell us about the equality present in Buddhism? This is what you need to look at. So when UPSC is asking you questions, another example I will give you. UPSC asked this question, that how social life has been depicted on temple walls. Now what we generally do, if we go to, let's say, an ancient temple or a medieval temple, most of the people in times of Instagram, they go there, they get their pictures clicked from various angles, they post it on their social media, and then they keep looking for the likes and comments, whatever is there. While you are preparing for this examination, what is expected from you? Whenever you are going to a temple, are you looking at what is depicted there? Are you looking at those sculptures or not? If you look at those sculptures, you will find that people who are depicted there, they are shown dancing, they are shown playing musical instrument. This is the social life that UPSC is asking you about. So it's very simple. If you are studying history by looking at a lot of images, because that will give you a real-time idea about how those people were living. They were very much like us, trying to get through life, trying to, in a way, leave a record of the life that they were living. So you need to understand the essence of that time if you want to get through this examination for this exam when we are looking at history as a subject. So these are the images that you need to look at. When we study this in class, we study with these kind of images only, so that you get an idea about these people's lives properly. When you are looking at the visuals, it will be much easier for you to remember it. I hope you understood the question. Okay. Now let us come to the next aspect. We have understood this, how to study this particular subject, what to study, what should be your book list. So when you are starting your journey, the most important books that you have to refer is your NCERT, and a lot of questions have come from NCERT directly. That is why NCERT becomes very important here. Now when it comes to history, there are a lot of NCERT books. So you might think there are old NCERT, there is new NCERT, another revision has happened, so even newer ones have come. What you should be looking at? You should be looking at your old NCERT. Why I am saying this? Because the information that you are going to find in old NCERT is much more in comparison to the newer ones, because many chapters have been cut down. Those chapters have been cut down for school students, not from UPSC syllabus. In UPSC, the syllabus is remaining the same. So what we should do? We should go through the old NCERTs. There are 4 NCERTs that you should look at. 1, Ancient India by R.S. Sharma. 2nd, Medieval India by Satish Chandra, and we are talking about class 11th and 12th NCERT. Modern India by Bipin Chandra, and there is class 11th Fine Arts NCERT. This will help you in understanding art and culture. There are a lot of other books in the market, and people will also advise you to read those books. But see, when you are going to read a new book, the most important question that you should have in mind: if I am reading a 500 pages book, will I be able to revise it? Does this book remain useful when it comes to questions in your UPSC exam? If you are reading a 500 or 600 pages book and you are finding only one question in your exam, is it relevant? Is it relevant to read those many pages, to revise it multiple times and make notes out of that book? So if you look at the outcome that you will get, it's not going to help you a lot. For example, there is a very good book, very well written book by Dr. Upinder Singh, but that book is written in an academic format. So for students like you who are preparing for competitive exam, it doesn't make sense to read a 1000 pages book unless or until you are a history optional student. If you are a history optional student, you have 500 marks just only in optional, then you should read this book. Otherwise it makes no sense. So there are very bulky books in the market. You should avoid that. Instead of that, you should revise your NCERTs multiple times. NCERTs plus your class notes, because when you are being taught these subjects in class, your teachers are reading multiple books to help you out, and then they are giving you a consolidated information based on 8 or 10 books that they are preparing from. So you don't have to go through all those books. You should read your NCERTs, you should read your class notes, and after that you should keep revising your syllabus from time to time. Plus, what else you should be doing here? Revision, practice. When you are practicing, you have to practice from both perspective, from the perspective of prelims, from the perspective of means. In this, apart from NCERT and class notes, what you need to add? Your current affairs. Now in history, you might think how current affairs is relevant. Everything that we need to study has already happened, so it must be present in the books. I'll give you one example from book and one example from the question, the previous year question. Have you heard about Harappan civilization? So it's a very prominent civilization from our ancient times. Now, if you talk about Harappan civilization, we did not know about it before 1921. The first site that was discovered, that was in 1921. In 1924, it was formally declared to the world that India has a magnificent ancient civilization with the name of Indus Valley Civilization or Harappan Civilization. Before this date, the world did not know about this. Now, these people did live in the past. They did have magnificent urban planning and all sorts of aspects in their life that we study today. So it had already happened, but we did not know about that. So in 1924, it was a new information that came to light. These kind of excavations take place even today, but if we don't keep a tab on current affairs, we won't be able to know that. So in 2023, UPSC had asked a question. They had given this site, Mujiri, and with this, they had given two more sites. So Erikamedu, Pompuhar, they are. And then they had given you 4 options. One option was capital city, one option was prominent city, one option was port. Now, if you read your news, there were 2 articles in the Hindu about excavation of this particular site. So you don't have to write down the whole news. You have to simply write down Mujiri port in your notes. If there is a new site that is coming into existence, you should just write that. You will be prepared. In 2023, UPSC asked this question as it was mentioned in your current affairs. Another example I'll give you from modern India. So, do you know about National Handloom Day? So, we celebrate National Handloom Day on 7th of August every year. From 2015, we celebrate this day as National Handloom Day. So, when we are talking about National Handloom Day, why are we celebrating it? So, if you look at textiles, you must have you must have gone for shopping and you must have looked at a lot of clothes and beautiful prints on them. Now, if you look at today's times, many of these clothes are machine produced. If you look at our ancient and medieval Indian tradition, people used to make these clothes by hand. In winters, you must have seen in your childhood that people used to make winter clothes at home by using various woolen yarns, and now you go to stores and you find all those clothes prepared by machines. So mostly in a world of mechanization, we have forgotten our own culture, and British played a very important role in that. So whatever kind of fabrics we were producing, whatever kind of designs we were producing during British time, they started using machines and they started selling those goods at a very cheaper price to us. What we started thinking, our hand produced clothes are very costly, these machine produced clothes are very cheap, let us buy the mechanized products, and we started forgetting about our own heritage. Now we have chosen this day to celebrate National Handloom Day so that we can bring back our culture into mainstream again. Why 7 August was chosen to celebrate National Handloom Day? Because there is a very significant event with the name of Swadeshi movement. So Bengal was one province in colonial period, and British divided that province because they wanted to divide people. Now what happened, people did a movement named Swadeshi movement. Why Swadeshi movement? They said that we are not going to buy your mechanized product anymore, we are going to buy our own product. That means Swadeshi. Swa, that means our own, Desi, that means from our country. Now this is the date on which Swadeshi movement had started. That is why we have symbolically chosen the date 7th of August to celebrate National Handloom Day. So when we started celebrating it, UPSC asked a question in prelims. They said on 7th of August we celebrate National Handloom Day. Reason, second statement that was there, reason, because on 7th of August Swadeshi movement had started, and then they asked you which of the statements are correct. So it was a current development that had happened, choosing 7th of August to celebrate as National Handloom Day. And then UPSC asked you about Swadeshi movement because the date is associated with Swadeshi movement. So when you are preparing for your examination in history, also try to make sure that you are updated on current events, and then you will have to go to your static portion. For example, in current affairs, 7th of August, National Handloom Day. That means in static portion, we have to read about Swadeshi movement for that year, and then we will be better prepared for the exam. So this is another aspect that you should keep in mind. I hope this much is clear. So what we need to do? First, we need to understand the syllabus properly. In our official syllabus, what is the issue? The line that has been given is giving us a very vague sense. So to make sense of that, we should go through the PYQs. You don't have to do that. Multiple people have already done that. You need to go through the listing of topics. So the very first thing as a beginner that you have to do, try to understand the syllabus. That means try to understand each and every topic that you need to study. Second thing,
Prelims is approaching fast, so ask yourself, are you taking CSAT seriously or leaving it for the last moment because it's just qualifying? That mindset is the biggest mistake aspirants make. CSAT doesn't test memory, it tests your clarity under pressure, reasoning, comprehension, numeracy and problem solving. One weak area, one wrong approach and the prelims journey can end there. That's why the Vision IAS CSAT Crash Course Prelims 2026 starting 5th January at 11 am is designed for smart, focused preparation with complete topic coverage. Every concept in CSAT is explained clearly and systematically, so nothing is left to chance. Through practice-driven learning, you apply what you have studied with mini tests, exercises and exam-focused problem solving. Expert insights and strategies help you tackle questions faster and more accurately, saving precious time in the exam. With personalized mentorship, your doubts are resolved, performance is tracked, and guidance is tailored to your strengths and weaknesses. And the flexibility of live plus recorded classes ensures you can learn at your own pace, revisit tough topics, and stay consistent in preparation. Don't let CSAT decide your prelims result. With the Vision IAS CSAT Crash Course, prepare smart, build confidence and face prelims calm and ready. For more information or register, visit our website or call us on the given numbers.
you need to go through PYQs of each and every topic at least 10 years. So in the past 10 years, what question UPSC has asked from that topic in prelims as well as in mains. That is something that you should do. After that, you should read your NCERTs plus class notes. That should be your third step. After doing this, you need to revise everything properly, and then you need to practice both from prelims as well as mains perspective. When you are talking about this practice, it should be done on daily basis. So whatever topic you are reading today, you should solve prelims specific PYQs. You should try to write mains specific answers. So it should be done on daily basis. Then at the end of the week, whatever topics you have studied, again you need to revise it on weekly basis, revision as well as practice, so that it is consolidated in your mind. After that, what you will do? Again, you can do the same thing at monthly basis. Here, any good test series will help you because they break down the syllabus in multiple parts and then they ask you to give the exam. So the exam can be given on monthly basis. It will be exactly like UPSC exam. They'll give you similar types of questions from different subjects. So this can be a very good way of checking your preparation on monthly basis. Whenever you are doing these things, try to analyze it, because one mistake that multiple students make, they study everything, they also give the test, but let's say you have given the test and you got 40 out of 100. Now how would you know where your knowledge is lacking? Whether your knowledge is lacking or you got very scared while sitting in the examination hall. Any of the reasons can be there. You might be very nervous, that is why you marked the answer wrong. You might not have understood the depth of the topic, that is why you are marking it wrong. So it's very important to sit with your answers at the end of your examination and to analyze where you are going wrong. You might be thinking that you know Harappan civilization really well, but you are not able to answer the question. So you need to analyze why are you not able to answer that particular question. Is your revision lacking? Is there a gap in your knowledge? And that is how you need to go back home and you need to correct all those issues. So whenever you are giving your exams, it will also give you a reality check whether you are doing your preparation in right manner or not. That's why this step is very, very important. It will also give you a lot of confidence that you are prepared in this particular subject. If there is a lack in other subject, you can identify it and you can correct it. Is this clear? So this is how you should approach your preparation as a beginner. Now, if you have any questions related with this particular discussion, you can ask. Yes. Okay, how do you have to analyze the PYQ? See, first of all, when you are a beginner, you don't have a lot of idea about how this examination work. So the best way at this stage can be to go through some of the detailed videos that are available. So in our channel also you will find PYQ discussion videos. Just go through those PYQ discussion videos, because there what is given, what is required whenever you are analyzing the PYQs. Which topics are being asked? That is first thing, because we have a very detailed syllabus. Not every topic is going to be asked in the examination. There are certain topics that UPSC keeps repeating. For example, in modern India, Gandhi. This is UPSC's favorite. So first of all, you need to keep an idea of in the past 10 years, which are the topics from which questions have been asked. How many questions in prelims? How many questions in mains? Are these questions fact-based? Are these questions concept-based? Is UPSC repeating the conceptual questions or not? This is a list that you need to have while analyzing your PYQ, so that you can direct your preparation in accordance to the questions. So we have already done a very detailed analysis of past 10 years questions. It is available on YouTube. So for every subject you can go through that. Okay. You were saying our NCERT is important. No, because they are for school children. Okay. So you need to answer questions which are UPSC specific. Okay. Any other question? So we can stop the session here, and you will be having your economy section, I guess, after this. So you can go through with that. All the best. Have a good day.